everybody at the Farnborough Friday. It's a pleasure to be with you. This is Paulo Nespoli talking to you from Houston, where I'm stuck because of this COVID situation. I would really love to be there with you. I've been there a couple of times in the past. It was extremely nice, extremely good. But today we go in this way. That's the new way of doing things. That's also we need to learn this one too. So I have a few minutes here. I know you have a lot of questions, and I'm really looking forward to answer your question. For the moment, I will give you a little introduction about myself and things that may be of interest. So, Paolo Nespoli, I'm Italian, and I am a former astronaut of the European Space Agency. That means that during my life, I was able to be selected as an astronaut. I had the opportunity to fly in space. In fact, I flew in space 3 times for a total of 313 days passed outside of this world. Well, of course, I was an extraterrestrial person, which is kind of crazy, but okay. So it's not that I was born and everything was clear and straight path in my life. I was born in Milan, but lived in a small town in the middle of nowhere, 6,000 people. Everybody was just going around there. When I was a kid, people were asking me, "So, Paolo, what do you want to do when you grow up?" And I would say, "Well, I want to be an astronaut." And they would look at me like, "Oh, yeah, that's a good idea. Study that you will go." And then they would turn around, nye, 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 because the chances of a little guy in the middle of nowhere going in space were essentially zero. And so people tell you, yes, study, you will actually do. But things in life do not work exactly that way. In fact, I did not even believe myself on this dream, and I started doing something else. I went to school as everybody. I did few things. And when I was around 19, I was even drafted by the army. At that time in Italy, there was a draft. So I ended up going to the army for 1 year compulsory service. And it turns out that I did stay longer than that because essentially I kind of found something new, something different, something that I could try myself, exercise myself, try new things, learn new things. And I ended up staying in the army for quite a long time. I was a paratrooper jumping off perfectly good planes, which is kind of crazy, and doing all sorts of other crazy stuff. And it was very good that this kind of opened a little bit my mind. And when I was 26, I kind of went back to my original dream. What do I want to do when I grow up? I want to be an astronaut. Okay, yeah, let's go for an astronaut. There was only one slight problem. I was already 26. I did not have a university degree because I went to the army. I did not speak English at all. I studied French in school, so no English. And I had the third thing that was usually required to be an astronaut, which was a regular health status, being a regular person. But out of this three, I was just a regular person. I was still missing two important things. So I decided something that's very important that I want to really tell you about, which is, at a certain point, you need to understand that we, in this case, you, are the owner of your future. You really need to sit down and think of what you really want to do. And think about something impossible. Think about crazy stuff that when you tell people, they look at you like, those things. Then wake up, stop dreaming, wake up, and start working to make that happen. Because if you don't do that, there will always be dream in the future. And this is more or less what I did when I was 26. Oh, I want to be an astronaut. It's crazy. I cannot do it. Well, I cannot do it until I don't start. I don't try. Probably I will not be able. But, if I don't try, I have to give it a try. And I tried, and it took quite a long time. I had to get a university degree. I became an aerospace engineer. I had to learn English, which, I can assure you, if you're not from Britain or the United States or a country where you speak English, it's already complicated. And then I had to try to become an astronaut. Now, how do you become an astronaut? At that time, you had to wait for a call for application from the space agencies, and then present your application. And usually there are a thousand of people that apply, so it's not that simple. And so I waited for my first selection. I presented my application. I was called for an interview. I passed the medical examination. I thought they really liked me, the commission, the committee, they keep interviewing back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And they did not select me. That was not good. I was almost thinking that I could have been selected, but it was not good. But I did not, I knew it was not simple. I kind of kept going. I kept going. It took a few other years. Another selection, I presented my application. I was called, interviews back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And I was not selected. Again, what do I do? Do I give up? Of course not. Of course you don't give up. It's something that is difficult, doesn't happen. That's the reason it's difficult. It doesn't happen so easy. You don't give up. You have to keep going. And I kept working. I was working as an engineer. I was happy with my work, but I wanted to be an astronaut. So I waited for a third selection. This time I was getting pretty old. I mean, I already had 40. I was 40, which is old for becoming an astronaut on the first time. But I applied anyhow. I went to the committee, interviews, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And this time I was selected. Unbelievable. Finally, I was selected. I became an astronaut. I was sent by the European Space Agency to NASA, to Houston, where I am still here now today, to train with NASA. I was like, whoa, I'm going to be training with NASA, with the people that went to the moon. At that time, they still were astronauts. In the astronaut corps, that were on the moon. I mean, it was an incredible place. And it took another almost 10 years before I flew in space for the first time. Long journey. When you start doing something impossible, when you start doing something complicated, you never know what is going to happen. For some people, it's a straight path, very quickly, very fast, For some people, it's a long way to go. And for me, it's not long. It's long, 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 long. But I'm so lucky that today, after having worked for 27 years for the European Space Agency, of which 20 here in Houston at NASA, where the top of the astronaut corps, I was able to fly in space the first time with the space shuttle, an incredible machine. The second time with the Russian Soyuz on a 6-month mission to the International Space Station, and then again on the International Space Station for a third flight, a total of 313 days. I would like to go around to the people that told me when I was a kid, yeah, study, you will do it. I would like to turn around and slap them in their face, or at least show them that, excuse me, 3 flights, 313 days, excuse me. This is not, I'm just joking, quote unquote. I am amazed at the fact that at the end I was able to make my dream come true. I was able to do all these incredible things. I'm happy that my passions really brought me to where I want to go, where I wanted to go, and eventually I was able to realize my dream. So, bottom line, if I have any suggestion for you, I would tell you that you really need to look into yourself. Figure out what you really want to do. What are your passions? And make those the core of your life. Because if you end up doing something that you like, that you have a passion, you don't see the time passing. You've seen people sitting at work looking for the watch. At 5 o'clock, I'm going to go and play golf. And I'm thinking, why didn't you play golf as a profession? You would be all day long playing golf, and you would not be sitting there looking at the watch. When I was an engineer, I really wanted to be an engineer. I would not see that time would pass. Often I would get a call at 10 o'clock in the evening, 11 o'clock in the evening, and I'm still in the office doing stuff. And they say, hey, it's time to come home, or you want to eat or something? And I don't even understand that that's the situation. This is where I think you need to be, doing something that you like as a profession. In that way, you can achieve things that normally you won't be able to do, and you will have a successful and happy life, which is all we want. And I really wish you that you will get to go to this dream. So think impossible things, and then wake up and start working to make them happen.
Hello, Paulo. My name's Dylan, and I'd like to ask you, what did you miss most about Earth while you were in space?
Hey, Dylan, that's a nice question. Of course, I miss a lot of stuff because there is no gravity, everything flies around. It's not that you can go to a restaurant, your friends are gone. You are in a confined, restricted environment. You're working. They make you work. They're really bad. You're working from 7:30 in the morning, 7:30 in the evening, and they make sure that you keep up your schedule. So I missed a lot of things. At the same time, you are in space. You're outside of this world, and you can feel and see and do and experience things that you cannot on Earth. So I tried to concentrate not on what I was missing, but on the other things that were there and I didn't know. Because if you don't experiment, if you don't try to go upside down, to do this, to do that, go to the window, do these things, then you're sitting there missing things. And this is, by the way, there's a lot on the ground. Sometimes things change and we miss stuff instead of looking at the opportunities. So I really, really focus on the new opportunities. And I can tell you that flying in space like a Superman and looking at Earth, it's absolutely incredible.
What's the coolest thing you've ever done in space?
Hi, Lily. Well, there were a ton of cool things that I've done while I was in space. I was working and I knew that I was doing science and experiments that were out of this world. I really thought, oh my God, I am inventing this, I'm doing that. All of those crazy experiments where it's in fact really cool and interesting to do. Then, of course, flying in space like Superman, that's cool. And looking at the Earth from up there, it's one of the best things that you can do because you're outside of this planet, you are an extraterrestrial people or person, and it's the first time that you really feel that's your home. And it's a completely different view than one we have here from the ground. It's such an incredible view. I really wish that everybody will have it. In fact, Lily, let's just make a plan. Let's go together, and I will show it to you.
Hi, Paolo. My name's Isabel, and I want to ask you a question. How do you eat in your rocket?
Hi, Isabel. You're talking about rocket, and you're actually in a rocket from the moment you take off from the launch pad in which you go in space. We can say that's a rocket, and then you go into your spacecraft, which is more your house, which is, flying around the Earth. Well, in these two situations, in the rocket part, you try not to eat because, you're shaking around, bumped here and there, up and down. It's not a really good time to eat something. Now, you go into the spacecraft, you go into the International Space Station, and eventually, your body at the beginning doesn't feel that well. It's kind of like, but then, you have to eat. And how do you eat? In the same way that you eat on the ground. You take stuff, you put it in your mouth, you chew them, and they go down. Now, here it comes a little bit of difference. You take stuff, you have to be careful because things float around. For example, you cannot eat something that breaks, that makes crumbles, because you imagine you do, and everything goes around, little pieces inside the equipment, in your eyes. It's crazy, so you need to be careful. But if you pay attention for this and you put it in your mouth and you chew them and you let them go down. Now that's another problem because here on the ground you usually eat standing up, so things kind of found their way down to the stomach. In space there is no down, so at the beginning things tend to get stuck, especially when you drink something. You think you're something like this, but then you get used to it, and in fact the body has muscles that take this food and actually takes it down where it's supposed to go. You just need to get used to it. Eating in space is not the best thing because it's not that there is a restaurant and you can order. The food is kind of prepared few months in advance, and it's all something that you can barely heat up a little bit. So it's not the best thing, but it's good. It's decent food. It keeps you not only alive, but it keeps you working. It's very well checked from a composition, calorie, protein, vitamin, and it's okay. I still missed a good pizza when I was in space, and that's one of the things that I had when I came back.
Hi Paolo, my name's Thomas, and I just want to have a quick question. How long will it be until you can send children into space?
Hey Thomas, I think you really want to go to space, and that's very nice. Yes, it's a little bit of a problem with everybody going to space because the body changes and there are some environmental conditions that create problems, especially for kids, for children, because children are more susceptible to radiation, space radiation, cosmic radiation that comes and kind of, doesn't play well with our kind of body. So we will need to invent something to really be able to bring children in space. At the same time, eventually we will have to have children. We will even have to make babies in space and find a way to that they can be born. Because if we go away from Earth and we are away for, I don't know, 50 years, we need to have this kind of thing. So this is an important point that today we cannot really solve easily. And frankly, if I have to tell you the truth, there is no need to get crazy on that area. But in the future, we will need to go. Bottom line, yes, we can work on that, but for you, this is not a problem. Very quickly, you'll become an adult. Very quickly, you'll be able to go to space. And I'll see you there on Mars.
Ciao Paolo, sono Jack e è piacere potervi parlare oggi. If I may just ask, what first got you into the space sector and what inspires and motivated you to become an ESA astronaut and engineer? Grazie mille.
Hey Jack, I was a little kid when the American astronauts were going on the moon, and I was really fascinated by all the process. And I can tell you that when I saw them driving the lunar rover on the moon, I said, hey, that's what I want to do. I want to go on the moon and drive around and see what happens. That's what kind of, fascinated me. And then little by little, I learned that it's a lot of technical things, a lot of preparation. You probably need to be an engineer or physicist or medical doctor. You need to work a little bit. And I found out that I really actually like all these things. So my path was actually there. I came from a crazy, strange idea of going to the moon and driving a lunar rover to becoming an engineer, to becoming an astronaut, to go to the space station. If I really, really think hard enough, I still did not make my dream come true. I never been to the moon as yet. So, but there are a few years in front of us, and maybe we will go together and do this thing. Would you come with me and try to see what happens with the rover? Let's see. Let's go.
Hello, I would like to know if you could go to any planet in the solar system, which one it would be.
Hey, Robert, that's a funny question. If I would go any planet, I would go to Earth, because I know very well that except Earth on the solar system, there is not much there that is really appealing to us as human beings. After all, we grew here and we are all done here. Now, if you're talking about exploration, if you're talking about knowledge, if you're talking about daring to do things, I think the planet that all of us should aim at is probably Mars. Mars is relatively close, relatively similar to Earth, at least size-wise, atmosphere, temperature. Of course, you cannot go to Venus. You're going to, disappear. Jupiter, those planets. There's no even way you can even think of being there. But Mars, you have to bring a life support system that lets you breathe. You need to check a little bit the temperature. Mars has these crazy things. Once in a while, you get a little hurricane type of thunderstorm. But that's the interesting part. Going to Mars, maybe we could figure out if there was life in there. Maybe. Maybe something was. Where is all the water that is supposed to be there? So many interesting questions. So definitely, if I would have to pick a planet, it would be Earth first, second, Mars.
Hello, when I'm older, I'd like to be an astronaut. So what advice can you give me, such as what should I study at school?
Ella, that is an interesting question and difficult to answer because you should not study things that will make you become a better astronaut. You should study things that will make you a better person, a better professional. So look at your profession. What do you want to be? A doctor, an engineer, a physicist, anything. And think what you need to do to become good at that profession. Because eventually, when you apply for an astronaut, the first thing that they will do, they will look and see how good you were at your profession. And if you say, "Oh, but I study orbital mechanics," see, I was not supposed to, but I study orbital mechanics. They're gonna look at you, and it doesn't do anything. If you're a medical doctor, you don't need to know orbital mechanics, but you need to know something else. So the bottom line is that I would recommend you do not now plan to do only things that will allow you in the future to be a better astronaut. Forget about it. It doesn't work like that. Think of what you really want to be as a profession and do everything you can to acquire knowledge, know-how, capability, work in that profession and be the best you can be. Then, being the best, all sorts of doors will happen, probably including the one of being astronaut. Also, the last consideration is that today, when we talk about astronauts, we are talking about professional astronauts, that they dedicate their life to become an astronaut. In fact, a lot of people confuse professional astronaut with going to space. Those are two different things. In future, with the commercial astronaut program, people will be able to go to space without becoming a professional astronaut. It's a little bit like, today you want to go on vacation and you had to take a flight. It's not that you have to get a flight license. No, I need to go to the Maldives and I need to learn to fly the jumbo jet. It doesn't work like that. It would be crazy if this is like, you just buy a ticket and sit in the back and let the professional pilot fly the plane. This is what's going to happen in the future. The professional astronaut will be flying. People that want to enjoy gravity, to enjoy the trip, enjoy something, will be sitting in the back doing something else. So figure out what you want to do. Want to be an astronaut? Have a professional, as I tell you today, it's a technical professional, physicist, engineer, medical doctor, oceanography, veterinarian, whatever, metallurgy, anything that is professional gives you a good technical background. Study everything that is needed for that profession. Be the best you can be, and you will get there.